Over the past decade, Marvel has been undoubtedly dominating the movie landscape, and they've been doing this ever since the very first Avengers, starting all the way back in 2012. You know, these movies were events. They were set up with a structured build-up to something even bigger than just an individual hero. You know, along the way, we would be introduced to heroes who would get development over the course of a series of movie building up to those things. However, I feel this has been a thing that's been severely lacking in the MCU since Endgame. I mean, we've been introduced to heroes who should have received the same exact type of build-up going on to Avengers Doomsday, yet we just haven't. And as a result, you know, as many people have complained about, they have resorted to just nostalgia bait by bringing back old characters or actors from previous universes or previous things. And in today's video, I want to talk about how Marvel should have tackled these stories leading all the way up to Doomsday, because I genuinely could not tell you why we should care about this movie outside of the fact of the people that they're bringing back, right? There's no story for me to care about. I have no idea what's going to go on along in the story outside of me knowing about the comics. So I feel like there is a lack of that buildup because general audiences don't really have a reason other than the fact that this is an Avengers movie to care about this movie. But we'll save that for the video. So before I get into it, as usual, I want to thank you guys so much for the support. You know, please continue liking, commenting on what you guys think I can improve on. And, you know, if you enjoy the video, please consider dropping a sub. But with all that out the way, let's get into the video. So before I even get into how I personally think Kevin Feige or just the people at Marvel in general should have handled these characters, I want to talk about where I personally think it all went wrong. Now, online, I have seen people blaming the direction of the MCU on the whole Jonathan Majors drama, and honestly just the fumbling of Kang in general. And while I do agree to some extent, the direction of the MCU can't entirely be put on Majors, because at the end of the day, he's just an actor in the grand scheme of things. Like, he's not bigger than the MCU. He's not bigger than the program, and that's no disrespect to Jonathan Majors and his acting ability. He was definitely one of the best actors they've ever had in there, but you guys get what I'm saying, right? And I genuinely think we would still be in the same predicament right now. I mean, look at Sam's journey of accepting his role as Captain America, which was relegated to a TV show, which was a character-defining moment, right? Usually you'd put this on the big screen. This is his whole thing. It's like, this is your new Captain America. But it was relegated to a 6-episode TV show that he only showed up as Captain America for like he only put the suit on and the shield for like the last, 10 minutes of the show, right? Now, while I personally did watch and quite enjoyed the show, I personally believe that only die-hard fans or just people who are super invested in the MCU would have even checked for it, especially because of just how much content Marvel was throwing at us on Disney Plus, which, if we're being honest, most of it was pretty mediocre at best. Not to mention how there just wasn't any real setup for the Avengers themselves at all until Thunderbolts, which was in a post-credit scene where it's mentioned by Bucky that Sam was trying to sue them for using the name, which in itself goes against the established friendship that had not only been set up in said TV show, but that they had developed over the course of working with Steve as Captain America for literally years after they rescued Bucky. You know, just kind of putting that out there. Also, Sam was like, he was like a psychiatrist, psychologist, something like that for Army veterans. So you would think that, considering what all the Thunderbolts had been through, you know, Sam would be a little bit more compassionate about them, you know, trying to be Avengers. But that's neither here nor there with, you know, the character assassination of that. But I do also want to talk about Sam's Captain America movie, which was essentially a backdoor Hulk sequel without the actual Hulk, which was then chopped and screwed and Frankenstein together like no other. If you look into that, it's actually really crazy how dirty they did that movie. You know, all this to say that Marvel has been squandering these characters, even the ones that they had from essentially the beginning, right? So what chance did the new ones even have? I mean, I very much enjoyed Shang-Chi when Marvel came back from that year-long break that they had, but where has he been? It's not like his movie flopped. You know, it did well at the box office. People loved him. People do ask about Shang-Chi. I think that was a very entertaining movie. I mean, look at Black Panther. They had to address the passing of Chadwick Boseman, RIP to him, but they still managed to pull together Ryan Coogler, I'm gonna say his name. Ryan Coogler still managed to pull together a great and successful story that did well at the box office. And if the Black Panther, which was written by Ryan Coogler, who's hot commodity these days. I don't know if you know that. Is being sidelined. What do you think the other people are gonna get? How do you think the other characters are gonna be, bro? Let's use our brains a little bit here, right? But then there was the Marvels, which I'll admit, it suffered due to its villain being written pretty forgettably, but it set up literally the most important part of the multiverse saga with the X-Men and traveling through different dimensions, right? All this to say that there is material to work with. By the time the Avengers had come around in 2012, Iron Man and Black Widow had already met in Iron Man 2. Banner had some form of romantic history with Natasha, apparently somewhere along the line. Widow and Hawkeye were also partners in the past, established. Literally the only person on the Avengers team who hadn't met any of the other Avengers was Thor, which was easily solvable due to them all knowing Coulson or Fury in some capacity. The closest we get to the Avengers knowing each other was through Wong, Bruce, and Carol at the end of Shang-Chi with that post-credit scene. And you could maybe say on that Young Avengers setup with Kate Bishop and Kamala Khan, but that's just an entirely different thing. It has nothing to do with the actual Avengers, if we're being honest. But I always hear people complain about the fact that they were pushing too much diversity, and this is why the MCU is failing, go woke, go broke, which if you agree with, you're just a bigot. Like, that's not the problem. The problem is they weren't giving us a reason to actually care about these characters. No one cared about Iron Man or Hawkeye, especially Hawkeye, until those movies. Hell, if you want to argue, maybe you did care about Hawkeye. Maybe you read the Matt Fraction run. I'm not sure if that came out before the MCU, but very good run. Nobody, and I mean nobody, gave a flying fuck about the Guardians of the Galaxy. Nobody knew about the Guardians of the Galaxy before that movie. Now all these characters are household names, and if you want to fight me and argue that you cared about the Guardians of the Galaxy before, tell me who was on the first Guardians team. Like, you just know that. You knew that before the Guardians were introduced into the MCU and everybody made a video on the original Guardians of the Galaxy. You didn't just go and watch some guy on YouTube talk about it. You didn't, you didn't know that Yondu was essentially the original Guardian of the Galaxy, and, he had his own team with him and whatever. I mean, I guess they kind of addressed that in the movie, but anyways, Marvel didn't nurture and care for these characters the same way they did in the first few phases. And I won't even say it's a race thing, even though it is very much starting to become that. I'm looking at how they treated Wonder Man, how they treated Echo, how they treated Ironheart, among other things. They're kind of just dropping them hot, just putting them out there. But it's because they were just too high on their own Kool-Aid, which I personally addressed in my superhero fatigue video. Link down below, very good video. Please check it out. It's doing pretty good. I'm pretty proud of that video, so I won't exactly be going into detail about that. But in summary, they genuinely thought the brand alone would carry the next Avengers film, which it just won't. And, I kind of get where they're coming from with that, but it's like, if you're giving people trash over the course of 5 years, because we're in 2025, 2026 by the time Doomsday comes out. I'm pretty sure, Kang Dynasty was supposed to come out this year. Kang Dynasty was supposed to be out already. So 5 years, you've been giving us just absolute trash. And now you're giving us, they've recovered a little bit. I'll admit, this year has been pretty good, but it's just because they've gone back to the drawing board. But moving on, I want to address how I personally think everything should have went down. So first off, I want to address the whole Kang thing, right? And I'm just going to start by saying this. If you're going to use the main villain of your entire saga in an Ant-Man movie, actually maybe have him kill Ant-Man, don't have him lose to Ant-Man. And look, I love Paul Rudd Scott as Ant-Man. He's charming, he's charismatic. But imagine if the first time the main version of Kang shows up, he kills a previous Avenger. Granted, it's Ant-Man, but that would show you just how serious of a threat he is, Have it so Scott can't beat him, which he shouldn't be able to, if we're being honest. He's not Squirrel Girl. If you get that reference, you get that reference. But have him sacrifice himself to get his family to safety and buy the Quantum Realm some time. And have his surviving family warn the Avengers of what's coming, Maybe have him go to Sam as Captain America and be like, hey, Captain America, you need to get some Avengers together, man. There's this big thing going on right now. Think about it with Thanos, One of the reasons Thanos worked so well as a villain was that his shadow began looming over the Avengers ever since the very first Avengers movie. Ultron was a result of Tony's paranoia. Then Thor, in, fear of Thanos, goes on a hunt a quest for the Infinity Stones, which put him in the crosshairs of Thanos. Not to mention that the Guardians themselves have ties with Thanos through Gamora and fighting, his underling through Ronan the Accuser. But point being, these things had an impact in the universe. I mean, Ultron destroyed Sokovia, which led to Civil War, splitting up the team, which came from the fact that Tony was paranoid about putting an entire a suit of armor around the world to protect it from Thanos, which led to all these things. And then, there's Thor in space, he loses his brother, which is a character that we had watched develop and redeem himself over the course of a couple movies. And then Hulk essentially took his first of many L's to come. Oh my God, they've done the Hulk so dirty. I hope in Spider-Man Brand New Day they're doing better, but we'll see. So it's like, even though Thanos was this cosmic arching threat, this just bigger than life thing, he had an impact on all the heroes' lives in some way on a micro level. While Kang technically does with the whole TVA thing and being He Who Remains, we only really see that impact on Loki. And while that TV show itself is phenomenal, it's undisputedly the best thing the MCU has ever done. I love that story back and front. Those 2 seasons, just chef's kiss, no notes. It's perfect. I might make a video on that one day, right? Anyways, it had no impact on the universe at large itself. That is to say, any movies or TV shows that we know about, even though it should have. I mean, think about it. He's in the area that is securing the timelines, and then these branching timelines start happening, and it's not related to anything. They're talking about anchor beings or what. Also, there's the idea of them introducing all these different types of beings that need to exist in a singular universe for it to stay alive. It's just, that's stupid. Stop doing that, please. I don't want you to, Nexus beings, whatever the hell it was, bro. Just stop it, And don't even get me started on Doctor Strange and the multiverse of mildness and how we haven't heard about incursions in literal years, even though it's what triggers Secret Wars, and that feeds back into them whole just throwing jargon of this is important to the multiverse, right? This does this with the multiverse, right? Well, whatever. I want to address Majors as Kang, which should have been recasted if they wanted to get rid of him. Like, if you want to get rid of him, recast him. You did it with Mark Ruffalo as Hulk. They recasted Edward Norton to make it be Ruffalo. And also Ant-Man's daughter, Cassie, she was recasted from Endgame to now because it makes the most sense for him. He's a multiversal character. What could have possessed you to think that you can't recast the multiversal variant character at all? Like, what's going on up here to make you think you couldn't do that? And I know about the whole dumb stadium scene with Kang, still have a new Kang come in and kill them all. And I mean, if you still want to feed into this whole nostalgia juice, have it be, Iron Lad for all I care. And then have it be like a younger version of Tony Stark comes in from another reality who invented time travel like way earlier than ours did. And he traveled to the end of the timeline and he saw something, and his whole paranoia is what's setting him off. Even though I personally think that's still ass. Stop betting on the nostalgia bait, bro, please. But it's still better than RDJ coming back as Doom, which is just but the correct answer was to just recast him altogether. Also make Sam's story as Cap in the Falcon and the Winter Soldier, again, like I said before, into its own movie. Do that, please. I feel like you really wronged Anthony Mackie and Sam as Captain America. Steve Rogers, Chris Evans and Steve Rogers had 3 phenomenal movies. He had 1 phenomenal movie, 1 okay movie, and 2 okay movies. There's Avengers 2.5, but whatever. That's not for this. Instead, they have elected to bring back RDJ and Chris Evans because honestly, dude, they're just so desperate for a big box office win right now, and everyone can tell. Like, we can smell it. You just want a box office smash hit because you're tired of everybody saying that the MCU's falling apart, right? And in doing this, they've sidelined everyone who was somewhat set up to take over, and I say somewhat because of how it's been that we haven't seen 2 of the most important characters who are meant to be leading the next generation of the Avengers. We haven't met once. Cap, Thor, and Tony met in the Avengers movie, sure, but like, that wasn't exactly the biggest thing. Like, they had plans going forward. Like, let's be honest, because Loki was in that movie, and then at the end of the movie we got the Thanos setup. This movie, maybe they'll have it. I don't know. We'll see. That's neither here nor there, but whatever. Anyways, Carol and Sam, maybe they probably met off screen, you know, outside of Endgame, which I'm not sure if they have even exchanged dialogue for real in that movie. But it's just, I don't really know where they're going with this or why I should care. So let's move on to my closing arguments. So in summary, I believe Marvel really just started forgetting the fact that they had to make audiences care about these characters to make them care about these movies. You know, it felt like for the past couple years, they were just experimenting with just how much slop people would eat before they started complaining. You know, we haven't been given a reason to care about this movie. We may have individual reasons to care about the characters, such as, you know, Thunderbolts with that entire team, because that was a very emotionally charged movie, you know, with Bob, and then Sam being Captain America, because we've grown with Sam ever since, what is it, Winter Soldier, all the way up, you know, things like that. And overall, I just feel that there's nothing going into this movie. Doom's probably just gonna be an Iron Man variant, which sucks. Steve Rogers for some reason is back, I guess, even though the last time we saw him he was a geriatric fuck, and they're setting it up so Steve and Doom have some kind of beef. I'm pretty sure, I think I've heard that, which genuinely is crazy because it takes away from one of the best movies they've dropped in a while, because we will never get a proper Doom versus Reed Richards story, which is criminal. And then on top of that, going forward, Doom's probably just going to be attached to Iron Man as like a Doom variant, which is, oh my god, that hurts to even think about, because there's only, I remember people bringing up the fact of like, oh yeah, Doom was Iron Man this one time, but that was one comic, and it's, I don't know, bro. I don't even want to talk about that. It's just so stupid, you know. I love the MCU movies growing up, and it really hurts to see the state of them currently. So I just really hope maybe they have a plan, but I'm not even looking forward to it, bro. Like, the last Marvel movie I really looked forward to was, I don't know, I was kind of looking forward to the Fantastic Four, but the one that was really, like, I hear people say this all the time, and I know it's kind of oversaid and overdone, but genuinely the last Marvel movie I felt excited about was Endgame. You know, I looked forward to Spider-Man Spider-Man No Way Home. There we go, Spider-Man No Way Home. And I have my own opinions on that movie, but that's it. That's the video, guys. You know, so let me know your thoughts in the comments below, as usual. You know, please consider leaving a like, a sub, and I'll see you guys in the next one. So I love you. Goodbye.